What's up?
Like you got a fresh haircut?
Yeah, I got stuff going on. Yeah, this time of year, yeah, like I kind of lose my mind, so I let stuff, happen up here and down here, and
You got a little
yeah,
goatee going or something? Nice.
yeah, ever since we did the rock show, I just felt like I gotta establish my artistic impression, just maybe whatever I can do. So it's not gonna last. When you
It's
see
not
me at a certain wedding in July, this will not be here. I promise you.
that's not necessarily because it's your choice. You will be told to
Oh, there
remove.
there are others, yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Amazing.
In the
Uh,
meantime, I have some freedom to mess around. So good
yeah. I mean,
to see you, man.
take advantage. Good to see you. So when you came into the waiting room, did you see I think it might not be for this meeting. Maybe it'll take effect for the next meeting, but it should have
Okay.
a point well taken logo in there now.
I
We'll
think it
ask
did.
Jeff
I
when
think
he,
I kind of went.
yeah, you weren't in there
Yeah,
very
let's ask
long.
Jeff.
We'll ask him when he gets here. I
Yeah,
know I have a story to ask you, but I have a couple things to update you on first. Um,
do it, do it.
this will be quick, and then you're going to tell me about a Subway story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It'll
All
be
right.
hard to
Oh,
live up
wait.
to
Let me do
tell
my
that. That
let me
sounds
do
so
my thing.
trivial, but it's actually there's a moral dilemma in it that I had that I would want to know what you would have done. So
All right.
yes, go ahead, and then I'll.
I'll do that. Okay. So I wanted to show you real quick my lathe project on the lathe. All right.
Yeah,
But I got to take you on a walk to
love it.
see. Hang on one second.
Oh, I feel like I'm in a lathe. I like spinning around.
Go.
Not that violently though. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Oh my
it's big.
gosh. That's awesome.
It's like 3 feet across, and I got my logo and
Jeez, Tom.
like Frederick. Anyway, that clock
That's incredible.
there was a clock there the same size, and it died. So the easy thing to do, of course, would be just fix the clock, replace the mechanism. But
Go
I,
to Hobby Lobby.
yeah, they're $10 online. I could have just replaced it, but then I thought, well, why not make
No.
my own,
Yeah,
right?
no, not you. There's no way that you could convince me that for $10 you can make something that looks that awesome.
Well, I could have fixed the one that was there for $10.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. All right. And then if you remember last time I told you I was going to make t-shirts.
Yes, you really did it. Oh my God, double stuff. Oh,
I mean,
oh
they
man.
turned they turned out so well. I cannot wait to give these to these guys. Like
Oh wow. What do we have to do here on Point Well Taken to get t-shirts?
I don't
Is
know.
that a
Let's
season three thing maybe?
I think it could be arranged for sure.
Okay, well you have to earn it.
Yeah.
Just yeah. So they were awesome. They actually the second to last one there looked just like my nephew Tori. Actually, I can't wait to send him this episode. Maybe it was the first one.
Oh, the one
Yeah, the
Viking.
that
Yeah.
looks just like my nephew Tori.
That's so
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
All
awesome.
right, that's what I've been up to. Tell me about this Subway story. I want to.
Oh, I
It
okay.
sounds like a difficult moral dilemma. What do you got?
Yeah, it is. Well, full disclosure, it didn't happen recently. It happened.
Okay.
I was reminded of it today or yesterday, um, as I was trying to do some errands. I went to a Subway, and I was reminded there was a time when I was with the Bills, which was 2017 or before, and in the off season. So the cafeteria is open all football season,
Yeah.
but then it's not in January through like May or all that. So there's a time where you're on your own for lunch, and okay, what I signed up for. It was all good. Um, that was, but you only have so much time. Even though it's the off season, you still have a lot to do.
Yeah.
So I decided I was,
But you got to leave campus, go find a place to eat, pick up your food, and you have
yes,
like an hour or less to do it.
very good. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I went to a Subway and I was walking toward the door, and then I heard like, voices behind me, a conversation. I looked, there was like 7 people, like a kind of a co-ed group coming from a business office in that plaza. And they were coming toward me. I opened the door, and I thought the polite thing to do would be to open the door and then keep it open. And like all 7 people were like, "Hey, thanks, 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 thanks," and they all went in, and I was behind them,
Yep. So now you're number 8 in line. You could have been
number
one.
8 in line. And
Yeah.
Subway is not, each one takes like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It cost me a half hour of my time to be polite, and I was there any other way for me to play that out other than just letting them all go in? And they were like, "Hey, hey, thanks, 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 thanks," and I don't know. I can see you contemplating.
So I guess here's how I look at it. When you hold the door for someone, you're not just being polite for a hold the door for you. You are giving up your spot in line.
Yeah.
So you made that decision. Not a good one, but you made that decision. What you here's what you can do though. Rather than hold the door and move to the side, you pull the door and hand the door to them and walk in.
Oh,
Just as polite,
I should have done that. You're right.
just about as polite, and you're meeting some social norm, but not giving up your spot in line.
Okay. Because I had to get back to the office because they're paying me to be productive.
Yeah.
But I had to eat. Um, so I
Yeah.
will do this. We're about to have Jeff Caliguire on, and he is a
Hang on.
man who's, yeah, when he watches this over, maybe he can, watch it and comment and let us know what he would have done. So,
Hey Don, your audio, is it me? Your audio is a little staticky.
okay. I signed on from another platform, so let me do this. I can edit. Let me join from a different platform, and then
Okay.
thanks for letting me know. All right, here we go.
I'll let you back in.
Be right back with you. Thanks.
Hey. Are you coming back?
I am. No, I was going to leave you hanging there.
Here you go. I'll let you in.
I have 2 different. Okay, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Okay. Oh my, yes.
Yeah, better audio. It's
Good deal. Yeah. So I have 2 different Gmail accounts, and one is a little weaker than the other, but here we are. So back up the stronger one.
All right. Well, we should. I don't know that we need to do the intro. We can look at the list of folks as we go by Jeff. But let's get Jeff in here. What do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, I'm excited to hear you guys. Based on the text messages that we had earlier today, and
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize he was on boats. Like, we got to explore that, of course, right?
Let's get started. See Jeff's picture.
He looks frozen in fear.
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Should I be frozen in fear?
There was a picture.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we were like, wait, is that picture going to talk? Or
Yeah.
No, you're no stranger to. Jeff Caliguire, how are you, man?
Hey, it is so good to see you.
Great to see you.
Tom, it's good. I know I've met you before.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of that, of course. Like, I want to understand your years at camp, but I want to see how they overlap. But you look familiar. I don't know that we hung out a lot, though.
Yeah,
But
I think you guys are kids. You're a few years younger than me, right?
I did see your birth date on Facebook. So yeah, you're maybe 2 or 3 years older than us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
Well, I
wisdom.
mean, I have dug into this book, and I can't tell you, it's been like I love reading history to begin with,
Oh,
and then to
nice.
read history where you know everybody, and you know every room, and you know every bump, and you know every bike, and you know every boat. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty rich to be able to do all that.
Every boat.
Yeah.
You just said every boat. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
know every boat,
all
from the
right.
barefoot to the
Yeah.
ski nautique to the yeah.
Jeff, where are we talking to you tonight from?
So I am in Arvada, Colorado.
Okay.
And Mindy and I also have a place influenced by Camp of the Woods that's a ranch in Boulder
Okay.
that we've been developing the last few years. So Camp of the Woods has not departed far from this guy.
Wow. Holy.
I love it. Well, I saw some of your pictures online today, stalking you. I'm sorry, doing my due diligence. Yeah. And I told you in text we had lived in Highlands Ranch for 10 years. So
So good. When were you here?
uh 2009 to 2019.
It's great. Good times, huh? You liked it?
We loved it. My wife's family live in Hershey, Pennsylvania, so we've come back out here just to be closer to family for now. So it's
Where's back out here?
well, actually, my job restricts the states I can live in, so we're in Virginia right now. Otherwise, we'd probably be back in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and Don, I'm assuming you're still in the Buffalo area?
I am still in Buffalo. Yes.
What
Yes.
town?
West Seneca.
West Seneca.
So, yep. If you know, West Seneca is a suburb of Buffalo. And if you've ever looked at a staff directory, one person that you would have seen from West Seneca, New York, is Earl Johnson.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm married into that part of the world. My wife grew up in Springville.
Okay.
My brother-in-laws live in Hamburg.
Oh my gosh.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and they are probably friends with a lot of the Buffalo Bills that you would know, Mark Kelso and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike McGarry. Yeah, he's the guy. And then do you remember Joe McGarry?
Yeah. No,
Joe,
didn't
right?
he move to
I
like
mean, you've got
Scotland
Joe
or
on the back
something?
of your cover. That's
Oh,
Joe with Jerry Bird.
yeah. Oh, oh my gosh, Jeff. You are filling in the gaps of there are people in pictures that have come out of the woodwork to say that was me, and I'm still trying to figure out like where some of the people in the pictures are. So Joe was actually in the one with Jerry Bird.
Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome.
That's Joe
Now, didn't he
McGarry.
move to like
So yeah, so his
Scotland or
his
something?
family, Joe's about to move back to Hamburg from living in New Zealand.
No
So
way.
you're getting my family headed your way.
Oh, we're coming over the
One of these
ocean. Yeah.
two?
There we go.
One of these two guys here
Yeah, that's Joe right there.
in the middle?
Yo.
Yeah, that's Joe.
Ah,
Behind the price or whatever that is.
darn
Yeah.
ISBN.
Yeah.
There has to be a price that always gets in the way.
Yeah.
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 So here's what we should do. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. Don was he had an audio issue, so we didn't get to quite do our normal intro, but I think actually it would be good if you were in part of this anyway, because I wanted to this is what we normally do at the beginning anyway. Have you watched any of these, Jeff?
You know what? I saw part of one with Jimmy Olsen and
Jimmy
Beth
Olsen!
Markel. Yeah, so I've done my own snooping, but I needed to, I needed to make sure I read almost all this. I mean, before we go to bed, it just was so fun. But yeah, I've watched a little bit of it.
Okay,
Thanks,
so you know
Jeff.
what we're doing here. I want to we usually review only because it's really satisfying to look back on all the recordings that we've made.
So we're not being recorded yet?
We are.
We are. All right.
Although there's editing that, yeah,
Yeah.
we probably don't need much.
Yeah.
It'll come out
No.
next week. Yes.
But here we've got coming up right now, we've got Jeff on with us.
Thank
And
you.
is David Thompson maybe next week, Don?
Next week, yeah, we're trying to get him on Tuesday instead of Wednesday because you're going away.
I'll be traveling.
I've
Yeah.
got yes.
Okay. Do you recognize names on here, Jeff?
Oh, I think I know everybody.
That's a good
I
record.
really do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, since you've seen it before, I think I'm gonna maybe shift. We do an on the spot. We're gonna come back and do an author's edition because we just interviewed last week Peter Young. He's an author. If you know Peter,
Yeah, I know the whole Young family, know Bruce, and
He knew you.
yeah,
Knew
he
you
mentioned
too.
you. He mentioned you a couple times. So we interviewed him last week a lot about his books that he's written. And I know that you're an author as well. So we do have some specific questions that we'd like to, I'm just curious about anyway, because I do enjoy writing as well.
awesome.
But I think we'll start with our typical camp questions. And what I always kind of say here is these questions are really geared for you to give Joanne Purdy
I know what
the
you're gonna
information she's looking for in all of these interviews. So this is all about Don's mom.
It's not all. She's yes.
Well,
She
it
loves
is.
this. She does. She does.
She does love
Well, I
it.
would love to connect with your parents.
Oh, they would love to
They're
connect
two of my
with you.
favorite people.
Yep, and you know my mom, thinks fondly of you and Mindy and and Joe when he didn't he go to
Yeah,
Scott?
Joe worked right directly with your mom, I think, when
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
Hill. Yeah.
yeah. There was a text message that we had earlier before we came on here, and I always like to explore this too. Like I don't know if this is one of the questions on here, Tom, but like I would love to kind of hear from you, Jeff, like how the Caliguire family, which to me
Yeah.
was such an iconic camp family, first came to camp.
And what's the connection?
Yeah, and then you had these jobs. You were on boats for a year. I didn't know that, but then rec staff and like kind of take us back and take your time
Yeah.
to go through all that because that's really
Yeah, I'll come back to the pictures in a minute.
interested in that.
Right. Well, you know how when people say, I was born, I mean, it really was. I was born in December, and my first time in Camp of the Woods was probably July of '64.
Okay.
Okay. So I have been going to Camp of the Woods, since before I can remember. So there was no time in life before camp, similar to you, right, Don?
Yeah, well, yeah.
True.
And my family, there's people who the buildings are named after who they invited to Camp of the Woods, the Burkle family. We
Yeah.
went to church in Palisades Park, New Jersey, with the Burkle family and the Armstrong family, and so they were already coming here. They invited our family, and I think in 1972 we bought land on Second Beach and built what then became the Sanju House and now the McWilliams House. That A-frame that's right there, the second house in, and so. Every summer, I mean, I was so incredibly spoiled. In retrospect, I would tell Mindy, things from my life, and she'd go, "Yeah, you were spoiled." But like we would go and spend our whole summers at
Yeah.
Camp of the Woods. We lived next to
Man.
the Spear family. I don't know if you remember Cindy Spear. She was my best girlfriend, Ruth Burkle. And we would come and then I'd get to just be one of the Camp of the Woods brats, riding my bike around, making trouble, getting in trouble. And yet it formed me, I mean, and the reason we live near mountains and I'm looking at mountains is because of Speculator. And I mean, Colorado is a mini version of Speculator without the black flies.
There's no bugs there, Don. There's no
It's
bugs.
incredible. I mean, you go outside and you expect to be hit by bugs and you're not. And you literally can leave screen doors open in the summer.
Yeah. Jeff, we asked our realtor when we were looking at houses in 2009, we said, okay, if we wanted to screen in this porch, are we allowed to do that in this neighborhood? And she's like,
Why would you bother?
I don't understand your question, is what she said. What do you mean screen it in?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I mean, literally, I grew up with all the people who eventually went on staff, and some of the things, like I could tell you about, Caliguires who've been kicked off staff, but we won't go
Wait.
there because he may watch this. But
Oh, hey, it's all open right now. Like it's all
I
good.
love the vulnerability in your book, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
I
Well,
really appreciated that. So,
um,
but there really was something special about when you got to the age where you could work at Camp of the Woods. And I mean, I truly had some cushy jobs. I would room with people who were, like you, washing dishes, and I would be taking people on hikes or hanging out at mini golf with rec staff. My first year on staff was Jim Rumsey's first year. Uh, he had just come from being the physical therapist for Robin Williams with
right,
the
Yeah.
Popeye movie.
Yep.
right,
And
right.
that was kind of iconic. You get to work with, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know who Robin Williams was at the time.
He has still been doing some, apparently, from what I hear, it's kind of secret but physical therapy for some people that are so high level, he's not allowed to say who they are.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
We'll get him on here, Tom, season 3.
Yeah. And then
Jeff
ask,
just-
all right, just tell us. We can even cut that part if need be,
Yeah.
right?
Jeff, you just reminded me.
No, I think that part before is okay. Like he has leaked that before. Beth Markell told me that. Yeah, Robin Williams.
Love Jim Rumsey, love Carol.
Yeah.
They're Carol's brother, uh, Nelson.
Pete.
Pete Nelson
Yes.
had a big impact. I used to go to his youth group in Cresskill, New Jersey.
Oh my gosh.
And so those people are, they just rank really highly in my view.
I don't think you're not suggesting that being on boat crew was a cushy job, are you?
Well, I did know what it was like to carry those canisters
Yes.
and build
Yes.
up my forearms and hurt my back. And I did have that experience at least twice of trying to drive the barefoot through the fog and ending up at Cherry Creek. Like there's an undertow that pulls you towards Cherry Creek.
The magnet, something.
And you think you're about to hit the island and you hit Cherry Creek and you
It
think,
mocks
"Man,"
you.
my
Okay.
wife would say, and how is this like your life?
So this weekend,
Well, we'll get into that. Yes.
I was up in Pennsylvania with my wife's family,
Mhm.
and we had a discussion maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. And I was saying, hey, remember when your brother worked at Camp of the Woods? And she said, he never worked at Camp of the Woods. And I'm like, yes, he did. She's like, no, no. And so I made her call her brother. And yes, he did work at Camp of the Woods. He clarified this weekend, though, why she would not remember him. He worked on the hill and he worked 12 hours a day and didn't have any time to socialize.
Wow.
So she doesn't remember him because he wasn't hanging out with us.
Yeah. So,
Somebody
I mean,
really
I had
Yeah.
guys that I lived with who worked in the dish room, and one guy we lived in a place called Schmedley that we painted red. Okay, I lived with Rob Deckerman and Dave Park and a guy named Steve Boardman, and we decided to paint our cabin red, which no one told us we couldn't do it, so we did it.
Like the caboose red?
It was caboose red, but it was a cabin in Boys Park. So one night, poor Steve, who had to get up, every morning, crack of dawn to go, do his dish room and all the rest. He was not prepared, and he got work crew after work crew until finally he was told, if you're late one more time,
Jeez.
we're going to have to kick you off of staff.
Oh no.
So with the loving guys that we were, we said, Steve, you should go to bed early. So he's like, yeah, I need to go to bed early. Steve goes to bed. The rest of us are all up talking. Rob Deckerman has an idea. Let's all set our alarms. Let's all get in bed, have the alarm go off and say, Steve, it's 6:45. So we do that. We have the alarms go off.
But it's like 3 a.m.
Jumps. It's 11 o'clock. It's not even, it's not. Steve jumps out of bed, like throwing his clothes on, and he's saying some words he shouldn't be saying, running out the door. And he goes, why is it so dark? And Rob Deckerman goes, it's an eclipse. It's an eclipse. And Steve just turns around like all confused. But those are the kind of, kind of
Oh,
things that I go back to and think, wow, that was part of Camp of the Woods.
amazing.
Well played. That's funny.
That is so amazing.
So
So,
he did make it through that, right? He did not get
He did make
another.
it through. He did
Okay,
make it through.
good.
He
All
went
right.
back to bed that night and
All
he
right.
woke up at a normal time.
so Jeff, though, can you tell
Great.
us how did your family get connected?
Yeah.
It was there before you were there, but do you know the origin?
And
The
I
origin of our
really, Jeff, I feel like I should know this more. And
How did we get to Camp of the Woods?
yeah,
Yeah.
your family. I feel like I should know this
Yeah,
more.
I mean it was we went to a Plymouth Brethren chapel in Palisades Park that Harold Burkle
Okay.
and Helen Burkle were a part of. And so
Okay.
they'd been going to Camp of the Woods since the late 40s or
Okay.
early 50s.
So family friends or church friends.
Yeah, and then
Got you.
so then our
Okay.
family started going every summer until we purchased a little piece of land and then built this A-frame. And
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
ever since, I mean, and so now we still own a house that's just 3 doors down from that
Awesome.
on Second Beach.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. And you mentioned that before that, it was like you're growing up, you don't remember a summer where you weren't at
oh,
camp. And the Burke,
yeah,
it's interesting. The Burkles, uh, an iconic camp family, and yeah, Harold Burkle is someone that my dad, holds dear to his heart.
yeah.
You know,
He was an incredibly generous man, and
yeah.
he was the senior vice president of Allied Chemical Corporation.
Oh
So he
wow.
had a huge job, and yet he was the guy who was teaching Sunday school class and leading the songs with his kind of way he was. And I just had a huge love. And then when Mindy and I went into ministry in the early 90s, the Burkle family were huge supporters of us, and he
Oh.
constantly prayed for us. And so, I mean, the Burkle Center is near and dear, and the Burkle family is near and dear.
And did you meet Mindy at camp?
No, I introduced her to camp. Mindy and I
Oh,
went to
okay.
college together,
Okay.
and then we started dating. We met in a Bible study at Cornell, and then I introduced her to Camp of the Woods. The first summer she worked on staff, this is how crazy I was. I left and went on a mission in Japan, and she worked on staff at Camp of the Woods. I almost lost her that summer.
Hmm.
Um,
Was there
but,
another
but
guy?
anyway, that
Yeah.
had her get to know Camp
Yeah.
of the Woods and my
Okay.
family outside of me.
Okay.
Okay. So you said you almost lost her that summer.
Well, I almost lost her, and that there were some other guys who
Oh
were
yeah,
like,
there were other
"Hey,
guys.
Jeff's
Yeah.
not around.
Yeah. So, but
There
then
are
you
other
came
guys.
back and got
Yeah, I came
serious
back
about.
and things, and then the next summer, I was the tennis pro and head boys counselor. I lived with your Uncle Bob, and
Oh
so
my
I lived
gosh.
with Bob. One year I lived with Chuck Wong out near the caboose.
Wow.
And so yeah, all these people that are in this in this what do you call it?
Yeah.
Log?
That group of
Oh, the
people.
pyramid?
What is
The pyramid?
the pyramid? The pyramid, that's the word.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all dear friends, and I was literally on the bottom there. That's
Oh,
that's that's me on the bottom.
well done.
All right, there's four
I
there's four guys on the bottom. Which one's you then?
I'm the one who's in deep pain. I'm
They're
the
all in pain.
second. If you're looking at the book, I'm the second from the left.
Okay.
Steve
And
Lutz is
I remember something happening in my back that day, and I literally need to stretch every day because of back
Oh
pain.
no.
I'm
And
thinking,
you were like,
oh, there it was.
Origin story right
yeah.
there.
You're like, is this
Right
workers'
there.
comp?
Exactly. Camp of the Woods workman's comp. I'm sure it exists somewhere.
Okay. So we've got question one and
They
two.
were on their free time.
We've got question one and two covered for Don's mom. How about number three, right? Like you tell people about Camp of the Woods, what story do you repeat the most?
I do think it was that Steve Boardman story.
That's a good one.
That's certainly one of them. There's another one that I I could tell, but I feel like there's still too many people that we vowed silence to. And that was when I was on boat staff.
Honor that.
But
That's okay.
actually,
Maybe you could
the
just
other
give it,
story for
tease
me
us a
is
little bit.
I went to college and spent a few years where I wasn't involved with camp, and I gave up on my faith. I pretty much said, I don't. I mean, the God thing. I don't necessarily need God.
Yeah.
It's probably just because I grew up this way, and I ended up being offered a position as the tennis pro. And like when I think tennis pro, I think like Dwight Jacobson level. I was a really poor substitute for a tennis pro, I think. But it was an amazing summer for me to come back to camp
Mm.
and to have the opportunity, one, to step outside of my comfort zone and start teaching other people how to play tennis. I mean, I still hearken back to that. When you're doing something new and it's like, all right, I've taught people how to play tennis before. Maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that summer gave me the chance to process with people like Steve Nelson, famous for Mr. Steve's, and a guy named oh, now I'm blanking on his name. He was a pastor from Boca Raton, Dave Burnham. You probably
Mm,
remember Dave Burnham. Fabulous
familiar.
teacher, fabulous guy. But I got to just have that summer to process why believe in Jesus, why believe in the Bible. And it gave me a foundation that I've never left. And that was when this summer was. That was, I mean, I would say it was the best summer of my life before I met my wife. Um,
Yeah. Do you remember what year that was? Was that 84?
I think it was 84. Yeah,
84. Okay.
84. Yeah.
So Don, I hope you're taking note here. Most people when
Oh,
we
I am.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, but most
We,
people we
we
ask them.
record this too, so I go back through. So yes.
Well, we ask typical question is, what story do you tell the most? And Jeff's answer has it's so much superior to other answers because he's sharing
Hey,
like
I started to tell the story that if I told, I'd have people calling
you
me
did.
going, you should not have told that story because we needed to remain anonymous.
But you made a
Some of
pretty
them are in these pictures, by the way. If they call me
Right.
and they say,
oh.
Jeff, go ahead and tell the story, it's kind of like the Kennedy assassination. Time has passed.
They're released. The records are released. Yes.
Well, Don's writing another book, so maybe they'll authorize you to tell Don for his book.
I'm
That
gonna
would be good.
Well,
follow
and
up
if I
with
find out that he knows the story, then I'm like, all right, somebody else spilled the beans.
Jeff.
Yeah, but there's always a different perspective. Regardless, it was a nice pivot to a critical moment in your life, which is a common theme among people at camp, by the way, that that's a place where people find God can get a hold of them.
Yeah. Well, it gives you the space if you're not washing dishes or so busy playing the horn, or playing the drums, whatever, where you didn't have the space.
Yeah.
But for me, the times that were most significant, certainly had some chapel times that were great, but uh, sitting like hanging out at the that boat dock there at the little chalet that you guys used to live in with Steve
Mhm.
Nelson, looking at the stars, talking about what do we really believe.
Yeah.
It gave you those moments that most people don't ever have with peers.
Yeah.
And the people that I got to know, I really liked and really respected, and we had a boatload of fun. We would be out, falling on our face trying to barefoot, and then we'd be talking about, why is Jesus the way? And I think when you mix fun and relationship with meaning, there's something good. And so that very idea, influenced a lot of what I've done in ministry and in my work, and now with Whisper Ranch here in Colorado, where you mix outdoors beauty with fun relationships and belly laughs, and then meaning. And so I think that's part of what Camp of the Woods provided, not necessarily as part of a program. It just provided that atmosphere.
We're gonna talk a little bit more about that because I have a very good friend I told you who is also a coach who comes out of ministry as a pastor and has honestly an identical mission in life to combine fun with coaching or spiritual formation.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like
Yeah.
someone I should meet.
It
Yeah.
is. He lived in Highlands Ranch with us, and his goal is to get back to Colorado. So yeah, I want to talk more about that. When you're reading this book, did new memories or memories that you hadn't thought about for a long time, did they come back to the surface?
Um, so many that I wouldn't know where to start. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
of them were, I lived in parallel to Don. And I think because you were a couple years younger, I
Yeah.
wasn't as involved with the same crowd. Like I didn't know you,
yeah.
but like all the same people, like, the television room that didn't have a sign over it. And, the talk about 1980 Olympics and, I mean, you may not remember this, Don. This may have been when you were just a little bit too young, but one summer we were there and there was a tornado that came down the lake. And I remember that day really vividly and remember the way the wind came against our house and it flipped over Tentels.
Yeah.
And so you probably, that was probably when you were, I mean, I must have been 8 years old.
Interesting. Yeah, Jeff, it's so interesting you say that because that was before I was there, but I was probably very sheltered from it. And Beth Markel's older sister, Sharon, sent me a memory of that tornado. She was there, and it was on a Saturday. It was on a day, Saturday was the turnover day where you just move in, and they were all excited to go to the beach, at camp. But a tornado like this once in a lifetime kind of weather event turned over the whole. Literally
Yeah.
took up everything. She sent me an amazing story that I'm going to share in the next book, but. Yeah, but going back to something you said before, Jeff, like, and Tom, I think maybe you and I could really kind of connect on this. Was camp lent itself to being able to do things with friends, new friends that you made quickly because you had this common bond, and then when you were with them, you would do things and, what the Adirondacks had to offer, what camp had to offer, but somehow it could quickly shift into a spiritual conversation that was really impactful and meaningful and something that you didn't anticipate just minutes before. Like, and, earlier we had a conversation with Peter Young and I roomed with Keith Young, and there was a speaker that said something that kind of just like sort of opened up, triggered something that we were like, what did he say? What did you think about that? I don't know. Today, I don't feel like 19-year-olds or 20-year-olds really talk about that stuff. It takes something special to get them to have that kind of conversation. But at camp, everything that you lived in staff cabins and everything. It could always happen, and that was part of a special spiritual growth. At least, for me, even living there, it it wasn't a guarantee. I needed the staff experience for that to happen. That's one of the examples of when it did.
But are you sure it doesn't happen currently at camp still?
I'm sure it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does.
It
Yeah.
creates
it's
that
that
space.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a sense, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of Henry Nouwen. He was a Catholic writer, but he talked about
Yes.
hospitality
Hmm.
as creating the space where a stranger can become a friend. I felt like there's an
Mhm.
element of hospitality that camp provided that allowed those friendships. I mean, I'm still connected in friendships with people from those years. And yet what I find, you guys probably, find this too, is as you get older, you have less time like that where you develop those long-term
Yeah.
friendships. And there's a guy that I know who's a leader here in Boulder who said it takes a long time to make a new old friend.
Huh.
It takes time. And so like, because you have
Yeah.
this common experience and you're all living together in this place and you're all going through very similar things and eating together,
Yep.
you have the opportunity to get to know people and develop friendships that is just harder when you're in business or, other parts
Yeah.
of life and you've got kids and commitments
Yeah.
and,
It's
all
accelerated.
goes along with
True.
it. So I feel like, the friendships and the relationships that came out of Camp of the Woods, I've had collaborations with and interactions with, and part of it is, we still have a house there. So, I mean, I still intersect with them, but also you ski together, you do crazy things together, you jump out of the back of the boat when it's going 40 miles an hour, thinking that you're really not going to break your neck, you tubing. Like when I watch tubing, I think there's a real danger to that, like people can get hurt. And then we would barefoot ski off of one of those
Uh,
hydroplane knee boards, right? Where you start on a knee board and then you try to stand up, and you would go so fast into the water that your eyes would still be
Oh,
open. And
yeah.
you think that's
Yeah.
healthy. But it's all part of the things that forms those relationships that good things
Yes.
can continue to happen.
That's well described. I think it's accelerated friendship growth in that environment, which is, I think that's part of Don why reconnecting with all these folks
oh,
37, 38 years
It's
later,
significant.
those bonds are still there,
yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah. And there are people, you probably see this too, that they're the people you thought you would really stay deeply connected to that you're not. And then
Mhm.
there's the people who are kind of more peripheral that you're more connected to. So I mean, there's definitely, I have not talked to Rob Deckerman in like 40 years. Do you remember Rob
Oh,
Deckerman, the
all
guy who
right.
played the tuba? I mean, hilarious. He was like someone, I mean, I think he used to live in Colorado, maybe he still does, but if Rob, you listen to this, I want to talk to you, bro. Like, why are we not in touch? I want to, connect more with Dave Park. I want to, so I think there's the potential of what you guys are doing that deepens those bonds that's even bigger than just having a fun chat.
I appreciate that, Jeff, because
Yeah.
I have one of the real blessings I've gotten from uh, you know, doing this podcast with Tom about camp are the connections, the reconnections that have been made.
Yeah.
Darn it! I actually, Tom, I wanted to send you some pictures that I was going to show. We'll do it next time. But um, Amy went down to Florida with my
Oh, yeah.
family
Yeah.
and connected with Kathy Weisberg Sweeney, and they went on a hike. They didn't see any alligators, but they saw turtles. But they just got together and like 30, whatever, 5, 8 years that you just mentioned.
Yeah. After they
Uh,
roomed together 38
yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just really meaningful